Howdy folks, and welcome back to World of Tanks with the mighty Jingles, and this is the T25 Pilot, the latest in an increasingly long line of American premium Tier 8 medium tanks, currently available in World of Tanks upon completion of a 13 mission marathon, which can be completed over the period of 15 days, so you only need to complete 13 of the 15 missions available. What the hell's the T25 Pilot? Good question, glad you asked. The US Army was looking for a replacement for the M4 Sherman, and so the Ordnance Department requested that 3 separate prototypes be trialled: the T20, the T22 and the T23. So what about the T25, Jingles? Don't worry, we're going to get to that. The T20 is, and has been available in World of Tanks for quite some time, as the non-premium Tier 7 American medium tank. And the only real difference between the T20, the T22 and the T23 was the choices of transmission on the tanks. The Ordnance Department quite liked the T20 and the T23, and so it requested that the design of these tanks be standardised as the M27. Unfortunately, they hadn't bothered to check with Army ground forces, who didn't really see any need to replace the M4 Sherman, and so the request to standardise these 2 prototype tanks into the M27 was rejected. That's great, Jingles, but what about the T25? Don't worry, we're going to get to that. With the standardisation of the M27 rejected, the Ordnance Department continued to tinker with new tank designs, except this time with 90mm instead of 76mm guns, and this was what would become the T25. Called the Pilot, not because it flew things, but in the same way that the pilot episode of a TV series is the first one to be produced. That's why this is called the T25 Pilot. It was never put into development, of course. Further development of the T25 resulted in the T26, which went into service as the M26 Pershing. So, well, basically it's a Pershing prototype. What's it like? Well, I kind of like it. Well, yes, but that doesn't mean it's any good now, does it, Jingles? You like the TOG, and the TOG's terrible. Well, okay, fair point. So, well, as usual, I'm going to let you make your own mind up and draw your own conclusions based on the information that I give you about this tank. And in order to do that, I'm going to have to put my review hat on, take this tank out and play it. The first thing that I noticed upon playing this tank is that it definitely does not get premium matchmaking. You know when you watch those tank review videos on YouTube and you only ever see the reviewer playing the tank when he's top tier? This is not going to be one of those videos. Oh hell no, definitely not. The only time I was ever top tier in this tank was the very first battle I played, and you don't expect to do too well the first time you take a new tank out for a spin. The next game that I played, Tier 10 match, followed by another Tier 10 match. Tier 10 again? Oh, Tier 9 match, lucky me. Oh, Tier 10 city map, awesome. Then the matchmaker gave me Tier 9s on Malinovka, and then it was Tier 10s again. One more roll of the dice, see if we can be top tier. No. And at this point I kind of lost the will to live and stopped playing. But I didn't stop playing because I wasn't enjoying the tank, and I didn't stop playing because I wasn't doing well. I was enjoying the tank, and I was doing well, but I was kind of getting sick and tired of the uphill struggle of constantly trying to fight E100s and Batchats. The tank, however, performed well. Have a look at my service history. Now, I'm certainly no Super Unicum player, I never have been and never will be, and just on the face of it, looking at these stats, they seem distinctly average. But you have to take into consideration the fact that 70% of the games that I played in this tank were against Tier 10s. Now, when you take that into consideration, the numbers that you're looking at here on the service history of the test account that I used to play nothing but the T25 are actually not bad. If you can do an average of 1300 damage per game and score nearly 1000 base experience per game when you're playing a Tier 8 medium tank that basically has no armour whatsoever against Tier 10s, well, the tank has to have something going for it. So we'll take a quick look at the numbers and then I'll show you some of those games in greater detail. First, the gun. 90mm gun T7. It's not bad. Base rate of fire of just under 8 rounds per minute, 192mm of penetration with armour piercing, and with premium, which in this case is APCR, 243. 240 average damage, 0.36 accuracy, 2-second aiming time. Of course, these are the stock numbers. When you go ahead and fit things like vertical stabilizer, gun rammer and vents, you can buff that quite considerably. The rate of fire jumps to over 9 rounds per minute. You get a 1.88 second aiming time and a 0.34 accuracy, which is actually pretty nice. This gun also has a fantastic 10 degrees of gun depression, which is very, very nice. In a lot of ways, this gun is very, very similar to the long 88mm gun that you get on the German tanks. Although it lacks penetration, it does generally have much, much better aiming time. So the gun's pretty good. Can't really say the same about the armour, with the exception of the gun mantlet, which is very good, 203mm thick, with 76mm of turret armour behind it, but pretty much everywhere else this tank is going to get penetrated by everything that fights it. Even the upper glacis hull armour, at an angle where it's just short of an automatic ricochet, is never effectively more than 170mm thick, and everybody at tier 8 and up has a gun with at least 180mm of penetration. If you're unfortunate enough to be getting shot at in this thing and you can't take the hit on the gun mantlet, you're going to get hurt. The armour on this thing is basically there to protect the crew from small arms fire, shrapnel, stop them from falling out of the tank when it takes a hard corner at speed, and possibly deflect hits from 37 and 45mm anti-tank guns, which is kind of unfortunate because this tank was prototyped in late 1943, which was almost a year and a half after the Germans had introduced the Pak 40 high-velocity 75mm anti-tank gun into service. I don't know, perhaps the idea was that the tank was supposed to outrun the shots that were being fired at it. And it could have a bloody good go at that, because mobility-wise, well again, this tank's alright. It's not too heavy, the engine's reasonably powerful, which gives it a reasonable power-to-weight ratio of just over 14 horsepower per tonne. It'll do 55 km per hour going forward, 20 km per hour going backwards, and it turns at a very respectable, well, just short of 46 degrees per second. Also take into account the fact that the turret traverses at 48 degrees per second, and you can begin to see what this tank is for. It's for circle strafing big dumb isolated heavies. And I would dearly love to be able to show you some of that. Unfortunately, the matchmaker had other ideas and kept putting me in tier 10 matches. And this thing does not have the health to take more than 1 or 2 hits from a tier 10 heavy or tank destroyer, so circle strafing was out of the question. It does have one final outstanding feature which is going to be invaluable if you get yourself into a tier 10 match, however, and that's the spotting range. It has a stock view range of 390 metres, although you can see just a touch over 400 with a fully trained crew. And that was going to come in very, very useful in the kind of games that I got into in the T25 pilot. Redshire, tier 10 match. What do you do if you find yourself in a tank that doesn't have enough armour to reliably bounce hits from tier 3 tanks, and you find yourself fighting tier 10s? My mobility is pretty good, but I'm certainly not quick enough to be able to keep up with the Batchat platoon on my team, and it's highly doubtful that the other tier 8 mediums, the Mark 1 Centurion and the Panther 2, they're probably not going to be playing too aggressively. It is a tier 10 match after all, so medium tank wolf packs in this particular matchmaking are completely out of the question. So what can you do? What the T25 pilot brings to a game like this is more than 400 metres of view range, a very, very bouncy gun mantlet and 10 degrees of gun depression, so for as long as I'm able to get away with it, and I've already been spotted, and I'm taking no chances here because, well, one, tier 10s do love to shoot the tier 8s first, particularly enemy artillery, and also new tank syndrome. Everybody sees the new tank, they want to be the one to kill the new tank, so I'm not taking any chances. And I was never the first one killed in any game that I played in the T25 because I didn't take any chances. I played very, very cautiously, helped in no small part by the fact that 70% of the games that I played were tier 10 matches, and you don't get too adventurous if you're in a tier 8 medium in a tier 10 match. So what I'm basically going to be doing here is playing as a sort of poor man's tank destroyer. I've got that gun mantlet, I've got the gun depression, I've got the view range. I'm going to make the most of it, because these are pretty much the only advantages that you have in this kind of game. Oh hello, T10, bounced. T57 heavy, all kinds of enemy tanks. Let's start doing some damage. Not a lot of damage, of course, because you only do 240 average damage per shot. And even with the modified 0.34 accuracy at this kind of range, you can't aim for weak spots. But then again, I do have the sides of these tanks to shoot at, and it is a pretty target-rich environment. I mean, even if I miss what I'm aiming at, I should hit something else by accident. Yeah, you'd think so, wouldn't you? But no. At this point, I started thinking that the hidden stats, the gun handling, for example, the accuracy after turning the turret, the reticle bloom after firing, and so on, and so on, and so on, must have been shockingly bad. But no. It's actually pretty good. Not quite as good as the M46 pattern Korea, but pretty good all the same. This was just a combination of bad luck and my shitty aiming. Well, that and the fact that 192mm of penetration at this kind of range isn't enough to get through the side of the Jaegeru. Also, the shell velocity does appear to be quite slow on the armour piercing. Still, you do get 243mm of penetration with the APCR, and that is definitely going to reach the target a hell of a lot faster as well. And I would undoubtedly have had more success if I'd used the APCR ammunition, but I never did. I know I can just press the 2 key to turn myself into a tier 10 medium for a small price, but I'm testing the tank. I want to see what the regular ammo is like. I know the APCR can penetrate. I want to see what you can do with the regular ammo, because you lot want to know what you can do with the regular ammo. And so far, I'm doing just short of 1200 damage. Now, I did get spotted just before I crested that ridge there. There's an AMX-30 next to me. So, of course, the artillery goes for me. Well, maybe the AMX-30 didn't get spotted. Yeah, but maybe he did. Tier 8 medium, tier 10 match. Guess who the artillery are going to prioritise? Top tip, it's not going to be the AMX-30. So, confident that artillery is going to be sitting there reloading and waiting for me to crest that ridge and get spotted again. Let's not crest that ridge and get spotted again. Instead, there's no way this Object 140 is going to see me. But, well, he knows somebody's shooting him from over here, and so he's angled the tank well, and I'm just not able to penetrate and do any damage to him. I'm going to chance this ridgeline again. That Centurion was on very low health, and it looks like he's been forced to... Oh, he's dead. The lurve has taken him out. And I didn't get spotted when I crested the ridge, but it's just me and the AMX-30 up here now. There's a Panther 88 a little bit further back. And, oh, I've been spotted by the Schwerpanzer. Take the shot on the gun mantlet, put one into him, fall back, and here comes the T57 Heavy. Now, me, a Panther 88, and an AMX-30. Who is the tier 10 heavy autoloader going to shoot at first? Top tip, it's not the AMX-30. First he kills the Panther 88, and then he tries to kill the other tier 8 medium. Luckily for me, he's now out of ammunition, so I kind of dodged a bullet on that one. T57's falling back to reload. Here comes the IS-3, and he is going for the AMX-30 because, well, he's tier 8, the AMX-30's tier 9, and that's worth lots and lots of points and prizes. He's finished off the AMX-30, and there's the M46, and hooray, something I can actually definitely kill. And he knows I'm coming, of course, because I'm spotted by the IS-3, and he has some high explosive loaded for me. If he hadn't hit me on the gun mantlet, that might have killed me. And oh, there's the T57 Heavy. Come back to finish the job. Well, let's see how brave he is when he's not fighting tier 8 mediums. There's a pair of Batchats on the team that are still alive. Barely. Watch this. This is actually pretty amusing. He doesn't know which one to shoot at. This guy. Look at me. Look at me. Look at me. You should have been looking at the Rheinmetall Borsig. Scourge of tier 8s. Killed by a tier 8 tank destroyer. Justice. Oh, God. These two Batchats were actually pretty damn good. You can see they're platooned up, and they barely have enough health between them to make a tier 5 tank. But that's the thing about Batchats. The longer they can stay alive in a match, the more dangerous they become. Because at the beginning of a game, that 105mm autoloader struggles to find a tank that it can clip, that it can kill in one reload of its gun. But at this stage of a game, there's all kinds of wounded tanks on various different degrees of low health, which means that this thing can kill you often before you can get a shot off. Now you see what they're doing here. The other Batchat is all the way down the other end of the map. He's looking for the artillery, while this guy... that Jaeger is on full health. And a Batchat cannot kill a full health Jaegeru with one clip, not without an ammo rack or a little bit of help. And he's going to go for it, because that guy has just fired and killed the Rhinotail Borsig, so he's got that guy's reload to get around him, and artillery's having a go, and it very, very nearly does it. Unfortunately, one of the two artillery missed, and I think the Object 261 has just given his position away, because that Jaegeru is pointing the gun right at him, and there's the one surviving enemy artillery taking the shot. That's of course why he kept moving and didn't just sit there behind the Jaegeru waiting to reload. But his friend in the other Batchat has killed both of the two surviving enemy artillery, and bang, there we go, Jaegeru dead, finished off by the FV3805. So, how did we do in that game? Actually, not bad. In fact, considering it was a tier 10 match, I think I did pretty well. I managed to get Confederate, damaged more tanks than anybody else on my team, at least 6. And because I'm a tier 8 fighting tier 10s, you get that experience modifier, which meant that I was top of the team on experience earned, and in fact the only tank on the team that earned more than 1,000 base experience. 2,300 direct damage done of my own placed me 5th overall in damage done on the team, behind 3 tier 10s and 1 tier 9. I'd love to be able to show you this tank in its element, doing what I think this tank really would excel at, leading a tier 8 Wolfpack, and kind of reminiscent of the way that the Type 59s used to all gang up together in tier 8 matches back in the day, and just roam around the flanks, wreaking havoc on anybody that they found alone and isolated. But, well, the matchmaker just wasn't interested, I'm afraid. So I did pretty much have to make the most of the opportunities that I could, and when it was practical, stick together with the other higher tier mediums and try not to become victim of whatever it is that they ran into. And I was consistently able to finish at least in the top 5 on my team, if not always in damage done, then always in experience earned, and sometimes in damage done as well. This is not a bad tank at all. I do kind of like it. I just wish the matchmaker had been a little bit more lenient. Nevertheless, I mean, I don't want to just show you me camping a ridgeline, working the gun depression and the gun mantlet, because that's not all that you can do in this tank, although you're going to be finding yourself doing quite a bit of that if you end up with the same kind of matchmaking that I had. And while that is undoubtedly the safest way to play this tank if it's not top tier, it's not the only way to play this tank if it's not top tier. This is a tier 9 battle on Malinovka. Nobody's spotting the enemy tanks for the rest of my team, who are being very, very cautious on the top of the ridge up there. And sometimes, well, a tank's just got to do what a tank's got to do. There's an enemy IS-6 who's been holding up our entire team from behind the church over to the right. He's just about to go down, and I need to get around the flank here and spot the enemy tanks on that ridge just up ahead. I'd appreciate it if the rest of the team could kill that IS-6, and they have. And I have, of course, been spotted. They know I'm coming, and they're all popping out of cover to take shots at me. Now, I take a couple of hits on the chin, but thanks to the above average mobility of the T25, I'm able to get into this. There's not an awful lot of cover here, but I'm under the arc of their guns, and I've spotted the S51. So, they've all taken hits as they crested the ridge there to take a shot at me. I've managed to kill the S51. Good start. Now all I need to do is keep them spotted and stay alive. And that's going to be easier said than done. Yak Tiger 88 moving up, IS-3 on the flank, and there's a Mark 7 Centurion on the other side of that hill as well. My problem here, while I take a shot into the side of the turret of the IS-3 there, is that the VK4502B on top of the hill can't shoot at both of these targets at the same time. And the Yak Tiger 88 is going to attempt to take advantage of that, although that is going to open him up as artillery bitch slaps the IS-3, although it was the VK who finished him off, and that means the Yak Tiger 88 has seen his chance. He's going to attempt to come out and finish me, but that's allowed the AMX 5120 to finish him off, and ow, that really, really, really hurt. That was the GW Panther. I can't afford to take much more of that. Still got the Centurion over there. There he is. I'm attempting to keep him proxy spotted, primarily for the AMX 5120, who's in the best position to shoot him. But of course, every time I spot him, he's also spotting me. And that GW Panther is going to be reloaded before too long, so I really, really need that Centurion dead. I really need that VK to get his ass off the hill and come down here and help me, but since he's not in any particular rush to do that, who knows, maybe his W key's broken. Oh, spotted an IS as well. And the Centurion missed, so loads more potential spot and damage for me. Looks like the AMX 5120 is going after the IS, and he's nearly dead. And he's dead, and artillery finished off the Centurion, and not before time. I really needed that Centurion dead, because he was keeping me proxy spotted for the GW Panther, and he just missed. So, a metric arse ton of spot and damage done. Now if I could just convince that VK4502B to get his ass off down the hill, because I'm trying to find the GW Panther, and bugger, I've been spotted, and yeah. That was 3,500 spotting damage, and this was shaping up to be quite a good result. Unfortunately, once the VK4502 had run out of American medium and French heavy tanks to go and spot for him, he eventually came down off the hill, but couldn't be persuaded to go looking for that Waffenträger Panzer IV. Not until the artillery went out to spot for him. I'm not making this shit up. Turns out M40s don't make particularly good scouts. And with the GW Panther, clearly not a team player, refusing to scout for the VK, he was forced to get off his lazy arse and go and find the Waffenträger for himself. And with less than 30 seconds of the game remaining, well, that was never going to happen. And this one ended up a draw. Tier 8 medium tank, Tier 9 match, third out of 30 tanks on experience earned. And I did less than 1,000 damage of my own. 3,500 spotting damage. I do like the T25. I mean, there's nothing that it's especially good at, but then again there's nothing that it's especially bad at either. It just seems to be, well, it's a lot like the Sherman Easy 8. There's nothing that the Sherman Easy 8 is particularly good at either, but again, aside from the fact that it cannot take a hit, much like the T25, the Sherman Easy 8 is just a fairly good, reliable, all-round decent tank. Even when you're getting shot at by artillery. It's regular as clockwork, isn't it? Artillery's got a choice of targets to go for. They go for the Tier 8s. Oh, there's an Object 140 there the FD207 could shoot at. Nope, he's going to kill the Tier 8 Heavy instead. You couldn't make this shit up. Still, the Tier 8s are going to get their revenge right after we finish putting some shots at this AMX CDC. As he finishes off the Panther 88. Oh, a Tier 10 I can shoot at and damage. Hurrah! Because that's the way it goes, isn't it? I don't know if you've noticed this when you're playing random battles, but the higher tier tanks love to shoot up the lower tier tanks. And the lower tier tanks, if you give them a choice, they're going to shoot the higher tier tanks. It doesn't seem fair somehow. But that is the way it goes. Because, well, you get more experience and credits for shooting up tanks that are higher tier than you. So why the higher tier tanks would love to pick on the lower tier tanks, I have no idea. Because it's just not profitable for them. The lower tier tanks aren't that much of a threat to them. They should be prioritising, surely, the tanks of the same tier, or higher tier tanks than them, but it just never seems to work that way, does it? Top tiers always like to... Oh, hello. Oh, we're going to get some revenge here. Ah, yeah, you fucked that one up, didn't you? That's the first time in this match he's fired at a Tier 8 tank and missed. And there's the other one. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Am I going to get the kill? I'd like to get the kill. I got the kill, hooray. No Pascucci's medal, unfortunately. Only 2 of them. And again, and I hope you're seeing a pattern emerging here because it's quite important, a fairly decent result in a Tier 10 match, in a Tier 8 medium tank. Second on the team. Not on damage done, but second on experience earned. Now, I'm aware that the rallying cry of the jaded, cynical internet keyboard warrior is, yeah, it's easy getting that kind of result when you're top tier, Jingles, but, well, it isn't easy getting a good result when you're top tier. It's easier to get a good result when you're top tier, but it's usually far from easy. Getting a decent result when you're not top tier, when you're bottom tier and your back's up against the wall, well, that's the real trick, isn't it? And yet, I am consistently able to get good results in the T25 Pilot when my back's up against the wall. And I'm certainly not that good at world attacks. Thousands of you will be only too happy to confirm that. Which means that you don't have to be that good to be able to do well in this tank either. There's nothing really wrong with the T25 Pilot, other than the terrible armour, but even then it's got a very bouncy gun mantlet, better than the M46 Korea, for example. And I like the M46 Korea a lot. I think it is a very, very good tank. But while I could never really put my hand on my heart and say the T25 Pilot was a very good tank, I'm really struggling to find anything wrong with it either. The mobility's good, the view range is good, the gun depression is fantastic, the gun is good. It all adds up to, well, a fun tank. If I had to choose between the M46 Korea and the T25, I would definitely say get the M46 Korea. But, well, you don't have to choose between the M46 Korea and the T25 because one's a premium tank in the gift shop and the other one's a mission reward tank. So if you are grinding through those mission marathons in order to unlock this tank, I don't think you're going to be too disappointed with what you end up at the end of it. Before we finish up for today, I just wanted to share one final clip from a battle that I played on the Fjords map. And yes, I know, do try to contain your shock, this was a tier 10 match. Oh look, we found some artillery. Hey, and I've killed some artillery. Always the best kind of kills. But that's not what this particular segment is about. Oh, hello. Run away, little T49, run away. And please don't shoot me. Or if you're going to shoot me, please shoot me on the gun mantlet, because that wouldn't hurt too much. And yes, okay, he's out of here. But this up here, this is where it's all going to happen. This was fun. Just watch and be amused. So there's a whole bunch of tanks, friendly and enemy, all slugging it out with each other over here. And, yeah, I kind of derped that shot a little, and of course I've been spotted. Hello, Mr. IS-3. Are you trying to shoot me? I don't think so. Shoot him, he's chocolate flavoured. Oh, you're dead. Right. Screw it. Live fast, die young, leave a good looking corpse. Chicks dig scars and glory lasts forever. Defender is down. Who's next? Who wants some of this? Plenty of ass kicking for... Oh shit, that's a lot of very, very big and very, very nasty tanks. Please don't see me as I try to bury myself into the corner here. Actually, I'm not. I'm going up and working this 10 degrees of gun depression. Oh shit, it's a T57 Heavy. And you know what T57 Heavies like to feast on, don't you? Yes, tier 8 mediums. Here he comes. And I am doomed. There is no way I'm surviving this. Except I appear to have survived this. Ah, you're not such a big man now, are you? Come on, boys, kill him, will you? Before he reloads. That would be really, really nice. Come on. Come on. Oh, crap. Here come his friends. There's an E100 and another Defender. If this guy just rammed me on the way down, I'd be dead. But it's as if he doesn't even know I'm here. Hello. Yoo-hoo. I'm behind you. And for a moment there, it's almost as if he is actually looking to see who's yelling, Yoo-hoo, I'm behind you. And I'd have gotten away with it too, if it wasn't for that pesky T49. But hey, at least I went down swinging and contributed to the tank graveyard in the pool of fail here in the centre of Fjords. Not cowering at the back of the map like a craven cur. Not like the stock Ferdinand. What are you going to do with a stock Ferdinand in a tier 10 game? I mean, seriously, come on. Can't really blame the guy. And hey, he might not have actually been much use to the team alive, but while he didn't do any actual damage to the T49, I'm still giving him the moral victory and saying that he took the T49 with him. And so, yes, once again, even though we didn't win that game, somehow I still managed to come second on the team in experience earned. And you just can't do that in a bad tank in a tier 10 match. I think I'm definitely sort of seeing a pattern beginning to emerge here. T25 Pilot, mission reward tank. If you are currently doing the mission marathon towards unlocking this tank, I'm pretty sure you're going to like it. I know I did. That's it for today, folks. Take care, and I'll catch you next time.